Hollywood legends weren't just hiding in their dressing rooms. Some of them were hiding entire families. Forget about cheating scandals. What if I told you your favorite movie star might have had a whole second family tucked away on the other side of town, or across the country? Imagine building a career on charm and $1 million smile while juggling secret wives, hidden kids, and double lives worthy of a noir thriller. Ready to meet the legends whose real stories are wilder than fiction? Let's pull back the curtain. Clark Gable. Clark Gable was the king of Hollywood. Handsome, charming, the man every woman wanted and every man wanted to be. But behind those famous dimples was a man living double and triple lives. While married, Gable had a covert affair with Loretta Young, resulting in a secret daughter, Judy Lewis. He never publicly acknowledged Judy, even when they crossed paths years later. And the plot thickens. Rumors have long swirled about other unacknowledged children, quiet arrangements, and payoffs. Gable was the gold standard for leading men, but in reality, he spent years leading parallel lives. The studios helped him too, pulling strings, hiding the evidence, and even coaching Young through an elaborate adoption cover story for their daughter. Hollywood sold the world a vision of Gable as the all-American dream, while he juggled his own hidden realities. Is it any wonder fans still argue over just how many Gable offspring might be out there? When you watch his old films, just remember, you might be looking at the king of secret families. Charlie Chaplin. Charlie Chaplin, with his bowler hat and rubbery walk, made the world laugh. But off-screen, his personal life was closer to a dark comedy. Chaplin had affairs and children with several women, often while married to someone else. His relationship with teenage actress Lita Gray was hidden by a quick marriage in Mexico, and he paid huge settlements to keep scandals away from the press. More than one woman took Chaplin to court over paternity, forcing him to take responsibility for children he'd tried to keep secret. The real kicker? Some claims about Chaplin's secret families didn't even come to light until decades after his death, with more alleged children and grandchildren popping up from across the globe. Chaplin was a master at creating illusions, on the big screen and in his own house. In public, he was the charming, bumbling tramp. In private, he was spinning a complicated web of love, deception, and responsibility. Watching Chaplin now, you might laugh at the antics, but the truth behind the smile is pure Hollywood drama. Errol Flynn. Errol Flynn, the swashbuckler who swung from chandeliers and won every sword fight, left a trail of broken hearts, and, if the stories are true, secret children in every port. Flynn was the definition of reckless, and his off-screen adventures put his on-screen ones to shame. He had acknowledged children, but several more came forward after his death, claiming to be his offspring from flings all over the world. Some were the product of affairs with actresses, others with fans or women he met during his wildest years. Flynn rarely denied the rumors and sometimes even joked about them. Hollywood studios, desperate to protect his image, did their best to clean up the mess. But in the end, Flynn's legacy was as much about his hidden families as it was about his films. His official children later admitted they lost count of the half-siblings who claimed him as their dad. Watching Captain Blood or The Adventures of Robin Hood? Just remember, the real Flynn was probably off starting another secret adventure as soon as the cameras stopped rolling. Loretta Young. Loretta Young built a reputation as Hollywood's good girl, but her biggest secret was worthy of its own melodrama. During filming with Clark Gable, Young became pregnant and vanished from public view. The solution? She quietly gave birth, placed her daughter in an orphanage, and then staged an adoption to bring her into her home. That daughter, Judy Lewis, grew up not knowing her real parents until decades later, when the truth finally spilled out. Young spent years denying and deflecting, aided by a studio system obsessed with keeping scandals out of the headlines. The emotional toll was enormous. For all her on-screen piety, Loretta Young lived in constant fear of being found out. In the end, the story only became public after Judy Lewis published her memoir, and Young herself finally confessed. The ultimate irony? Young's real-life drama has now outlasted almost every movie she made. Her case remains the gold standard for how far Hollywood would go to protect its stars and how far stars would go to protect themselves. Ingrid Bergman. Ingrid Bergman was the original Hollywood angel, adored for her pure image in films like Casablanca. That all changed when she fell for director Roberto Rossellini in Italy, had his child while still married in the U.S., and suddenly had two families an ocean apart. American audiences were shocked, politicians denounced her, and Hollywood banished her for years. In Europe, she lived openly with Rossellini, raising their children and trying to outrun the storm. Meanwhile, her first family struggled with the fallout back home. Bergman eventually returned to America, but the damage was done. She was forever the star who broke the rules, sacrificed everything for love, and left a trail of family drama that played out on both sides of the Atlantic. Today, she's celebrated for her talent and bravery, but don't forget, the story behind the smile is a tale of two families and a Hollywood that couldn't handle the truth. Ule Briner. Ule Briner, with his unmistakable bald head and commanding screen presence, ruled Hollywood's exotic roles, but his private life was even more dramatic. Briner was married 4 times and had 5 official children, but his love life was filled with affairs, hidden romances, and surprise revelations. Throughout his career, whispers circulated about children he quietly supported in Europe, as well as adopted kids who only appeared in his orbit when the press was far away. Briner moved effortlessly between continents, often juggling relationships and responsibilities without missing a beat on set. Some friends claimed he liked the mystery, enjoying his reputation as an international man of intrigue. Even late in life, new stories about Briner's hidden families kept surfacing, painting the portrait of a man who never stopped performing, even at home. For all his swagger and control on screen, Briner's real family tree was as wild and unpredictable as his most famous movie roles. When you see him in The King and I, just remember, he wasn't just king of Siam, he was king of keeping secrets. Raymond Burr. Raymond Burr, the imposing star of Perry Mason, had a secret that would have shocked even his own courtroom audience. Burr's public image was squeaky clean, but off-screen he invented not one, but several entire families, wives, children, tragic losses, all of them pure fiction. The reason? Burr was hiding a personal life that Hollywood of the 1950s wasn't ready for. He created a backstory about a wife lost in a plane crash and a son who passed away from illness, stories he shared in interviews and fan magazines. In reality, Burr was quietly living with his male partner, and the phantom family kept the press satisfied and his secrets safe. He even provided detailed, heart-wrenching accounts of his imaginary loved ones, adding layers to the illusion. While his official family never existed, Burr's real legacy was his generosity. He supported dozens of foster children, paid for college scholarships, and donated anonymously to charities. Burr's elaborate lies fooled the world for decades, but the truth that emerged was even more fascinating. A man who invented families to shield the one that truly mattered to him. Spencer Tracy. Spencer Tracy is often remembered as the moral heart of classic films, but his own life was a constant juggling act. Married to Louise Treadwell, Tracy never divorced her, despite a decades-long affair with Katharine Hepburn. He maintained 2 families, one official, one shadowy, balancing public appearances with a very private love life. The studios went to great lengths to keep his double existence under wraps, coaching reporters and arranging photo ops. Hepburn, ever the loyal partner, accepted her place in the shadows, while Louise remained the public wife. Even Tracy's own children were caught in the crossfire, unsure where they fit in his fractured world. Hollywood sold him as the ultimate good guy, but the reality was messier, more human, and infinitely more dramatic. In the end, Tracy's greatest performance wasn't on the screen. It was the lifelong act of keeping 2 families together without letting the world see the cracks. Bing Crosby. Bing Crosby's velvet voice crooned about home for the holidays, but his own home life was a complex patchwork. Crosby had two families, his first with Dixie Lee and a second with the much younger Carrie Grant. The public saw him as a warm, fatherly figure, but his sons from the first marriage described a cold, demanding dad who ruled with an iron fist. Meanwhile, his second set of children remembered a loving, involved parent. The divide was so deep, his oldest sons went public with their stories, sparking national debate. Crosby never addressed the contradictions, leaving his fans to puzzle over the real man behind the microphone. The difference between his public and private lives is a case study in old Hollywood's double standards. The same man who sang about family unity lived in a world where secrets were just another note in the melody. Was he a changed man with his second family, or did the cameras just capture what they wanted us to see? John Wayne. John Wayne was the ultimate American hero on screen, tough, loyal, and larger than life. Off-screen, he had a much more complicated script. The Duke had multiple marriages and a series of overlapping relationships that produced children across decades. Some were born during his official unions, others during affairs the studios worked hard to hide. Wayne kept his different homes going with the same determination he brought to his movie roles, shuttling between wives, partners, and children, always keeping up the image of the strong family man. Hollywood PR spun his marriages as epic love stories, but in reality, Wayne's personal life was a messy patchwork of secrets and shifting allegiances. For all his on-screen simplicity, his real story was tangled, unpredictable, and at times heartbreaking. The lesson? Even the biggest legends could be found leading double or triple lives. When you hear that drawl or see him ride into the sunset, just remember, the Duke's greatest role might have been the one he played at home. William Holden. William Holden looked like he had it all, a golden boy with a string of hits and an untouchable reputation. But off the set, Holden's globe-trotting lifestyle left a trail of rumors and whispers. He was known for his affairs from Hollywood to Paris to Kenya, and several women claimed he fathered their children. While Holden publicly acknowledged two sons, stories persist of at least one daughter in France and another child in Africa, both kept quiet to avoid scandal. Holden rarely commented, and the studios buried anything that threatened his clean-cut image. He'd vanish for months at a time on location, only to resurface with new stories and a new woman by his side. To some, he was a restless adventurer. To others, a man running from the truth. In the end, Holden's double life was as much about hiding himself as it was about hiding families. When you watch his cool, controlled performances, remember, behind the confidence was a man trying to keep several lives from crashing into each other. Steve McQueen. Steve McQueen redefined the rebel archetype on motorcycles, in fast cars, and apparently in the family department. McQueen's two public marriages produced two children, but off the record, his name came up in more than one paternity rumor. During his wild years, he bounced between girlfriends, flings, and secret relationships, often while still married. Several women later stepped forward, claiming McQueen fathered their children. Some were quietly supported, others were left out in the cold. Unlike the precise, solitary heroes he played, McQueen's real world was crowded and chaotic. The studios did their part, smoothing over his image while keeping any family drama far from the headlines. The truth is, McQueen's rebellious streak ran deeper than anyone knew. He was as unpredictable at home as he was on the racetrack. Watching The Great Escape or Bullet. Just know the real chase was always happening off-camera. Warren Beatty. Warren Beatty's reputation as a ladies' man is practically legend, but what's less discussed is how many of those stories ended with secret families. Beatty was linked to countless women, actresses, models, socialites, and more than one claimed he fathered their children. Some claims remain rumors, others have been quietly settled or confirmed behind closed doors. For years, Beatty avoided commitment, and when he finally married Annette Bening, it shocked everyone. But by then, rumors of hidden kids and double lives had already become part of the Beatty mythology. Unlike many stars, Beatty played coy with the press, never confirming or denying anything directly. The result? A legacy where the real story is always just out of reach. For every famous romance, there's a whispered tale of a hidden family, a quiet payoff, or a child growing up out of the spotlight. Beatty may have settled down late in life, but his secrets will probably outlive his most iconic roles. Carrie Grant. Carrie Grant had the image of perfect sophistication, impeccable suits, a dry wit, and a charm that crossed oceans. But his personal life was always in flux, with 5 marriages, numerous affairs, and at least one rumored love child in the UK. Grant rarely spoke about his private life, allowing stories and speculation to swirl. More than one woman claimed to have had his child, and rumors of secret financial support quietly persisted for decades. Even close friends admitted they never knew the whole truth about Grant's family ties. He reinvented himself constantly, and just as you'd think you figured him out, he'd slip away, leaving only more questions. For a man who defined grace and control, his real legacy is a tapestry of relationships, disappearances, and secrets that never quite made it to the press. It's a reminder, the smoothest stars often had the bumpiest rides when the cameras stopped rolling. Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis could make the world laugh, but his family life was a different kind of drama. He had 6 sons with his first wife and a second marriage that produced another child, but the real secret was Susan Minaret, a daughter he never acknowledged, born from a long-running affair in the 1950s. Despite striking similarities and DNA evidence later on, Lewis never publicly accepted her as his own and left her out of his will. Meanwhile, he was known for his massive charity work for Jerry's kids, even as his own alleged daughter struggled financially. The split between his public generosity and private decisions became a running theme late in his life. Lewis's refusal to even meet Susan, despite her repeated attempts, added a strange twist to his legacy. A man who gave so much to strangers, but kept his own flesh and blood on the outside looking in. Hollywood's master of slapstick, it turns out, had family secrets that were anything but funny. Robert Mitchum. Robert Mitchum was the original Hollywood outlaw. Tough, unpredictable, and effortlessly cool. But away from the spotlight, Mitchum had secrets that would give any private detective a headache. Known for his charm and hard-living ways, he managed to maintain not just one, but 2 families, miles apart. While his official family lived quietly in California, Mitchum was rumored to support another woman and her children on the East Coast, making regular visits and providing financial help. Biographers suggest he carefully balanced time between his official wife and his unofficial home, crafting alibis worthy of his best crime films. Mitchum's children from both families reportedly learned of each other only much later, discovering that their father's double life was an open secret in certain Hollywood circles. It was classic Mitchum, living life by his own rules, dodging expectations, and leaving a complicated legacy that mirrored his best tough guy performances. If you thought his film roles were intense, the real action was happening after the director called cut. Tony Curtis. Tony Curtis lived fast and loved even faster. Known for his good looks and quick wit, Curtis was married 6 times and had 6 official children. But the headlines only tell part of the story. Curtis's romantic escapades were the stuff of legend, affairs with co-stars, brief flings with models, and rumored children he never publicly claimed. At least 2 women came forward in the 1980s and 1990s, claiming he was the father of their now adult kids. And insiders say Curtis was quietly generous, offering support without the headlines or court battles. Whether in London or Los Angeles, Curtis's name always seemed to surface when the topic of secret families was raised. For a man who made his name on playing lovable rogues, he turned out to be living the part 24/7. Watching Curtis on screen, you get the sense he was always in on the joke, but the punchline was his own chaotic family history. Anthony Quinn. Anthony Quinn brought volcanic energy to every role, and his personal life was just as dramatic. The Oscar-winning actor officially fathered 13 children with multiple women, and even that number might be conservative. Quinn juggled wives, lovers, and mistresses on several continents, often overlapping relationships and, in some cases, raising children together with ex-partners and current flames. Some of his children only discovered each other later in life, as Quinn was notorious for keeping his world separate. He provided for all of them, sometimes with public acknowledgement, sometimes not. Reporters covering his life used to joke that a Quinn family reunion could fill a movie set. For a man who played everyone from Zorba the Greek to legendary warriors, he left a real-world legacy, just as complex and sprawling. Watching a Quinn performance, you see the fire. His real life was even hotter. Orson Welles. Orson Welles was a whirlwind of creativity and chaos. His masterpiece, Citizen Kane, was about a man with secrets, and so was Welles's own life. Married 3 times, Wells was famous for his affairs, each one seemingly overlapping the last. But it's his secret families that really set the legend apart. Wells fathered several children across the globe, including a daughter in Croatia, whose existence was only confirmed years after his passing. He managed relationships in Hollywood, Europe, and beyond, often sending financial support or brief letters, but rarely sticking around for long. Even those closest to him admitted they could never keep track of his commitments or his offspring. Wells treated life like one of his films, improvisational, unpredictable, and always on his terms. For every recognized child, there was often another, hidden away, waiting for the truth to come out. Wells might have made movies about secrets, but he never stopped living them. Frank Sinatra. Frank Sinatra could charm the world with a song, but when it came to family, the story was much more complicated. While he had 3 acknowledged children with his first wife, Nancy, Sinatra's name has been tied to a string of other children, some officially denied, others quietly acknowledged behind closed doors. Over the years, women came forward claiming Sinatra was the father of their children, with stories of secret meetings, quiet support, and legal settlements. Sinatra's legendary friends never talked, and his official biographers downplayed or ignored the whispers, but the rumors just wouldn't die. Old Blue Eyes was as famous for his code of silence as he was for his voice, and his possible secret families remain one of Hollywood's juiciest mysteries. Did he father more children than he claimed? The answer, like a good Sinatra tune, is all in the delivery, and some stories are never meant to be sung in public. So, next time you watch a classic Hollywood film, remember, the real blockbusters weren't always on the big screen. They were happening behind closed doors. These legends weren't just acting out scripts, they were directing dramas that nobody was supposed to see. Which secret surprised you the most? Drop your thoughts below, subscribe for more Hollywood deep dives, and share if you love seeing the masks come off. The truth is, in old Hollywood, nobody played a double role better than the stars themselves.